Hi, welcome to this video where we will be attempting the HTML and CSS past paper questions in the 2022 past paper. Okay, so in this paper, we will only be attempting the 2022 HTML and CSS past paper questions. Okay, right. So over here, you can see over here, it says HTML is used to structure web pages. Give one reason why it is important to write organized code when creating web pages. Okay, so when they say organized code, what I'm talking about is something like this. Over here, if you look at this web page over here, we have a lot of content on this web page. Okay, and now I'm going to go into the source code of this web page, view page source, and you can see over here, my code looks organized. I have indented it properly. You can see I have the head tag. Inside the head tag, I have the title tag. If you look at the body is here. Inside the body, I have the table. Okay, and then for example, if you look over here, head opens here, head closes here. Okay, so reading through this code, since this code has many lines of code, reading through it, finding mistakes, finding tags that I have may have not closed, finding tags that I may have not spelled properly, becomes very easy because my code is organized. Okay, it becomes a lot easier for me to read and figure out mistakes. Okay, so similarly, guys, over here, let's put down our answer. Okay, so give one reason why it is important. You can say when the code is organized. When the code is organized, it becomes very easy for the programmer to read the code, understand it, and find mistakes that may exist in it. Okay, so this is the main reason, or this is why it's so important for us to have organized code. Reading, understanding, and finding issues that may exist in it becomes very easy for us. Okay, right. When you move on to question B, it says figure 1 shows how a description list. Okay, so we know of ordered list, we know of unordered list. Now we're talking about a description list should be displayed in a browser. The HTML code should display the heading, it should underline this text, and display the rest of the text as a description list, something like this over here. Okay, the page does not display as intended because there are 2 errors in the HTML code. Okay, so open question 1b.html in a browser and in your editor to identify the errors. So you must have these data files with you. Okay, so over here I have my data files. I'm going to open them up, and I need to open question 01b, Q01b. So when I open Q01b, you can see this is what I see on my screen. Okay, and according to my question paper, what I need to do is I need to make this what? I need to make it a heading. Okay, and this needs to be underlined. Okay, and the rest should be as it is. Okay, so in order for me to start editing this particular web page, I need to open this with a text editor. So you can either use Notepad. However, I'm going to use something that I'm more comfortable with, which is known as Sublime Text. Okay, so when I right click and say open with, Sublime Text does not show up over here. So I'm going to go into start. I'm going to type Sublime Text over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a drag and drop. So let's bring this to a side and let's do a drag and drop over here. So now question B has opened up on my screen. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so over here also you can see your code has been organized. So you can see immediately your eyes would come over here. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see clean and clean. The tag has been closed. However, it has not been opened. H1 is closed, but H1 hasn't been opened. So let's open it. Okay, I hope you know what H1 is. H1 is heading 1. Okay, so it has been closed but hasn't been opened. Let's see how the changes look. Okay, so I'm going to save it and I'm going to refresh the web browser. Okay, so you can see this has appeared quite fine. Okay, it's a heading. The next thing that they wanted me to do, according to the question paper, was this needs to be underlined. Okay, so I'm going to underline this. Let's come to our coding over here. Where is our coding? Our coding is here. So you can see underline is open, underline is closed, but for some reason it's not getting underlined. Okay, let's see what happens now. Okay, now when I refresh it, it has also got underlined. Okay, the text is also now underlined. Okay, so now it's working. U tag open, U tag closed. Okay, and the description list is appearing without any problems. If you look over here, it's appearing. Let's have a look at our web page once more. Okay, this is a problem. Okay, so over here we have a problem. An activity is not appearing as required. Let's see what needs to be done here. So you can see DT has been opened here. Okay, DD hasn't been opened here. Okay, so let's open the DD tag here. DD tag. Okay, and now let's save it. You can see it has been closed, but it was never opened. So we opened it just now. Now we should have no issues on our web page. Yes, now it looks perfect. Okay, so how do we save this web page? We are supposed to save it as q01b finish.html. So let's go into our Sublime text file, save as, and let's save it as, let me ensure I'm in the right folder. So this is the folder I need to be in. Over here, data files, q0b1b finish. Okay, and Sublime text will put the .html for me. Okay, so I'm going to say save. Okay, so now my file has been saved as well. Okay, right, that's also done. Okay, so now let's move on to our next question. Let me move on to the next one. Okay, right, over here it says a web page needs to display the table shown in figure 2. So this is the table that we are talking about. The table must include a border, the table heading some of our services, and the table data, ironing and laundry. Okay, this is what I need to show. So write the HTML code to create the table. Okay, so the HTML code for creating the table. Let me open a text box over here. So we all know a table starts with the table tag. So I need to open table, table open. Okay, and then let's go to the bottom and close table. Okay, right. Now the first thing that I need to do is I need to have my row. Okay, so I'm going to say tr table row open, and let me immediately close it as well. Table row close. Okay, now my first row is opened, and you can see my first cell or the first column is the heading of my table. Okay, so inside tr, instead of using td, which is table data, I'm going to use th, table heading. Okay, so I'm going to say th. Okay, and if you look carefully, you can see this has been what you call merged across two columns. As you know, guys, in a table, we insert our data row-wise. We first open a row, then we enter the data column-wise. You first open a row, then column-wise you enter your data. Over here, you can see this particular data has been merged across two columns. Okay, so inside our row, which is tr, we have opened it, and now our first column is going to be a heading now. So which is why I have said th, and I want it to be merged across two columns, which is why I'm going to say col span. Col span is equal to 2. Make sure you put double quotes, is equal to 2, which means merge it across two columns. Then I'm going to type my text. What is the text I want inside it? Some of our services. Now do not forget to close the table heading. Table heading is closed. Okay, and then do not forget, okay, the row has been opened, row has been closed, the column cell is there, the heading is there. Okay, now let me go down and let's do a little bit of arranging here. Okay, let's take this to a separate line, this to a separate line. Now I'm going to open my next row, my second row, tr open and tr closed. Okay, now inside tr, inside this second row, I'm going to open my first column, okay, which is ironing. So I'm going to say td, table data, td, and I'm going to say ironing, and do not forget to close this cell, td closed. Now let's open up the next cell, which is laundry. Okay, so td open, we say laundry, and we say td closed. Is it clear? So you can see now my second row is also done. Okay, my first row is here, my second row is here. That's also done. However, if you look at your table, you can see your table is having borders. Okay, there are borders on the table, but do not forget to say table borders equal. Borders will be equal to, I think 1 pixel is enough. 1 pixel solid black. Okay, so we will put over here table borders equal 1 pixel solid black. Okay, so with that, our table has been created. Okay, so over here we have our table. I think it looks quite fine. I don't think there's anything else we need to add. Okay, when you put borders, guys, normally it appears like this with a gap. If you want there to be no gaps, you need to say border collapse is collapse. Okay, that's what you need to do, but we don't need to do that for now. So over here, our table has also been created as well. Okay, right. Then I'm going to move on to the next question. I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Over here, it says figure 3 shows HTML code. So you can see over here, you have paragraph, tab index is equal to number 3, daily cleaning services. Here we have another paragraph, the tab index is 1. So describe the effect of the tab index. The tab index refers to you pressing your tab key. So when you're on this web page, when you press your tab key, it will first go to, which paragraphs? It will go to this paragraph because this is tab index number 1. So on your keyboard on the left hand side above caps lock, you have a tab key, right? So when you press the tab key, guys, it is first going to select weekly cleaning services. Then again, if you press tab key, it will select monthly cleaning services. Again, if you press tab key, it will select daily cleaning services. Okay, that's what tab index differs. Tab index differs the order of selection when the user presses the tab key. Okay, so they have asked us to describe the effect. So you can say tab index defines the order that the elements or the paragraph element that the paragraph elements would be selected when the user presses the tab key. Okay, so the tab index defines the order that the paragraph elements would be selected when the user presses the tab key. Okay, in this example, weekly cleaning services would be selected first when the user presses the tab key. Okay, so when the user presses the tab key, the first thing that would be selected would be weekly cleaning services because that has a tab index of 1. Okay, so I have given you all the marking scheme also below so that you all can go through it and compare your answers, what the examiner has also given. Okay, right. So with that, guys, we come to the end of question number 1, and then we will be moving to question number 2 next. Okay. Okay, so here are the marking scheme answers. And now we move on to question number 2 over here. So over here it says CSS is used by browsers to style HTML elements. Figure 4 shows CSS code and HTML code. So this is the code that we have over here. The plus selector is used in line 2 of the CSS code. Give the name of the selector. So if you look over here, when it comes to referring to the HTML tags, they have used a certain type of selector. Okay. Now let's go from the beginning over here. In CSS, we have different types of selectors that we can use to refer to the elements in an HTML file. Okay. So in CSS, you can refer to the h1 tag, you can refer to the body tag, you can refer to, for example, the paragraph tag. There are different ways of referring to the elements in an HTML document in CSS. Okay. So for now, what we know of is the simplest of selectors that we know is, for example, you can simply mention the tag name. Okay, you simply mention the tag name, which you simply mention the name of the tag h1 or paragraph or what you call img. You just mention the name of the tag, and then you have different properties for them. This is one way. This is what we call the element selector. You select based on the elements. Okay. Then we have something called ID selector, where you select elements based on their ID. So in the HTML document, let me explain it over here. Let me show it over here. So for example, you can see this particular paragraph has an ID called para1. So in CSS, you refer to this paragraph based on its ID para1. Can you see? This is what we call an ID selector. Okay. Then another type of selector that we have is something which we call class selector. So this is where in CSS you refer to an element by its class name. So you can see, for example, this has a class called center. Okay, this is called center. So in your CSS area or in the style area, you refer to this element by saying dot center. So the moment you put dot, it means you're talking about a class selector. You're referring to this element by its class name. That's why you have put dot center. Okay. Then the next one that we have, the next type that we do have over here is something called the universal selector, where your properties is going to apply to all the elements on your web page. So if it's universal, you put an asterisk. Asterisk means this applies, these properties apply to all the elements on my web page. Now these are simple selectors. Then we have something slightly advanced, which we call combined. Over here, we have something called combined selectors, where you can have selectors that have a relationship with the elements on your HTML web page. Okay, let me show you how it works over here. Over here, I have CSS combinators. Okay, we have something called a descendant selector. Now, I hope simple selectors have made sense to you. If it didn't make sense to you, pause the video right now and go back to simple selectors, watch it 2-3 times and try to understand that first. Then come back over here to combined selectors. Okay. In combined selectors, we have something called descendant selector. Let me show you how it works. In descendant selector, look here in my CSS styling area, what have I said? div paragraph, which means wherever the p element appears inside div, I want the following properties. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay. So this is what we call a descendant. Over here, we call it a descendant selector, which means whenever paragraph comes inside the div tag, apply the following property. So if you look over here, can you see here my div tag has been opened and all the paragraph tags inside it, have got the following background color of yellow, including this one as well. Because this particular paragraph is also inside the div. Yes, it is inside section and section is inside div. So it also applies to paragraph number 3. This is what we call descendant selector. Okay, apply. So let me tell you in simple words. It means apply the following properties to all the p tags inside the div tag. This is what we call descendant selector. Then we have something called child selector. So for child selector, we use this particular symbol. Okay, we use this character. Now let's talk about how this works. If you look at a child selector, okay, look here. So I have said div, I have put this greater than symbol and said paragraph. Okay, so I have said p tag. Okay, so what does it do? It selects all elements that are the children of a specified element. Now these properties, the background color of yellow applies only to the p elements, okay, only to the p tags. Okay, so let me tell you what the difference between child selector and descendant selector is. Now if you look over here, the paragraph element comes inside div, so it has been affected. You can see paragraph 1 is in yellow, paragraph 2 is also in yellow. However, paragraph 3 is a descendant but not a child. What do you mean by that? You can see paragraph 3 is inside the section tag. Since it is inside the section tag, which is inside div, it does not inherit this property here. Okay, I hope it makes sense what I'm telling. Okay, this particular greater than symbol means apply the following properties only to the paragraph tags that are directly inside the div tag. Anything that is a sub, do not apply it to them. Is it clear? Apply it only to the children, not to the descendants. Okay, so you can see over here, this particular paragraph 3 does not inherit the background color of yellow because it is inside section. It's like a grandchild. Get my point? Okay, so it doesn't inherit the property of background yellow. Okay, however, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 4, they are directly inside the div tag. They receive it. Okay, they receive the background color of yellow. Okay, this is what we call child selector. Okay, then we have something called adjacent sibling selector. In adjacent sibling selector, you can see we use the plus symbol over here. What does this mean? This means, now what does this plus mean? It means whatever it means this plus symbol means what? The paragraph tag that appears after div should inherit the following property. I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, this means the plus symbol means adjacent sibling. Okay, the paragraph that is next to div should inherit the property. So you can see over here, I have my div tag over here. It ends over here now. The paragraph tag that comes immediately after it, that's considered as a sibling. The paragraph tag that comes immediately after it is going to inherit the properties of background color yellow. This is what we call adjacent sibling. Okay, so the paragraph tag that comes immediately after div should have background yellow. If you go further down, you can see over here again we have open div and here it is closed. The moment it is closed, the next paragraph tag that appears after it is going to inherit the background color of yellow, because this is adjacent sibling. And how do we define it? We define it with the plus, div plus p, which means the p tag that comes after div. Okay, and then we have one more, which is general sibling selector. Now in general sibling selector, we do not put plus, we put approximately, we put this symbol. Okay, we put this symbol, which means selects all elements that are next siblings of a specified element. Okay, so all the paragraph tags that come after div are going to inherit background color. Hope it makes sense. Okay, there's a difference between adjacent sibling. Only the paragraph tag that comes after div is going to receive it. In this, all the paragraph tags that appear after div are going to receive. So we call general sibling. Okay, so you can see over here div closed, paragraph D, paragraph O appears div. Both of them have inherited the background color property of yellow. Okay, so these are the advanced for CSS selectors. Okay, now coming back to our question. Okay, guys, if you're still confused, I would recommend pause the video, go back again and watch this this combined selector part, watch it again. Okay, now if you come over here, they're asking the plus selector is used in line 2 of the CSS code. Give the name of the selector. I do hope you remember when we went through, the plus symbol was used for something called adjacent sibling selector. Adjacent sibling selector. Okay, so this is the name of what this plus is called. Okay, this selector is known as an adjacent sibling selector. Okay, describe the effect of the CSS code in lines 2 to 4. So lines 2 to 4 is over here. Okay, so what does it do? Okay, so you can say this defines that the p tag, the p element that appears immediately after the what tag? After the div plus p now. So this defines that the p element that appears immediately after the div tag would inherit the property of font size 40 pixel. Would inherit the property of font size 40 pixel. Now, which element are we talking about? We're talking about actually this highly recommended. Okay, so highly recommended is going to be changed to 40 pixel because this is the paragraph tag that's immediately after the div tag. So you can say over here, the highly recommended, you can say highly recommended dot used them for years would become 40 pixel in size. Okay, that's what would take place. Okay, right. So I hope this makes sense to you. Okay, moving on to the next question. Explain one reason why web developers use web-safe fonts. Okay, so talking about web-safe fonts are fonts that are generally installed on all digital devices. Okay, so I'm sure you have some fonts in mind where any digital device you use, you can find those fonts. Yes, like fonts like AAL, Times New Roman, Calibri, okay, Microsoft Sans Serif. These are fonts on anybody's device. Generally speaking, all devices have these fonts, which is why we call them web-safe fonts. Which means if you use these fonts on your web page, anybody's device will be able to load your web page without any issues. You get my point? Now, if you use a font which only certain devices may have in their storage, may have in their memory, your web page may not properly load on certain devices because certain devices may not have the font that you have used. Which is why it's always recommended when you develop a web page, use web-safe fonts, fonts that generally everybody's device would have. Okay, so I'm going to give you another small explanation over here. Here we have web-safe fonts. Okay, so these are the web-safe fonts, Arial, Verdana, Tacoma. These are fonts that are generally available on every digital device. Then we also have something called fallback fonts. So generally, guys, fallback fonts are in case your initial font doesn't work, you can have a backup font. So you have a property called font family now. So in font family, you can have more than one font defined. So if the first one doesn't work, you can then say use serif. If serif doesn't work, then use monospace, for example. Okay. These are the types. I'm sorry, these are the types. Here are the examples. Okay. You can say, for example, use Arial. If Arial doesn't work, use Times New Roman. If Times New Roman doesn't work, use, I don't know, Times or serif, whatever, or use Georgia. Is it clear? These are what we call font families. Okay. So web-safe refers to fonts that are generally available on everybody's device. Fallback fonts are your backup fonts. In case the first one doesn't work, you can define 2-3 other fonts that can be used as backup. Okay. So let's mention it over here. Okay. So for example, you can see over here, what has the user done? The user has given 3 options. If Arial doesn't work, then use Helvetica. If Helvetica doesn't work, then use Sans Serif. Okay. I hope it makes sense to you. So one reason why web developers use web-safe fonts, you can say web-safe fonts are fonts that are generally available on all digital devices. So by using web safe fonts, the web page would not have issues in loading on any device. Okay, so because as a developer, you want your web page to load on all devices without issues, so you try and use fonts which every device would have. Okay, and these are the web safe fonts, okay, like Tahoma, Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman. Okay, these are fonts that every device would generally have. Okay, right, I hope that makes sense to you as well. Let's move on to the next question over here. So over here it says a web page uses an image sprite. Okay, figure 5 shows the image sprite house.png. CSS can be used to show different sections of the image sprite. Okay, so over here you have your image. Okay, it's one image. There is one like this, another one like this, both together. Let me show it to you. All this you can find in Q02C. Okay, so you have a folder called question 20C, and if you open it up, you can see this is the image sprite. Okay, one side you have an image with no background, and on the other side you have another image with a background. Okay, looks good. Let's move on to our question. What does our question say? When the page loads, the user will see this section. When the page loads, the user should see this side of the image. Basically, this side of the image should be only visible. This side should not be visible. Okay. When the user hovers means puts the mouse on top of the image will be replaced with this section of the image sprite, which means that this should automatically appear. Okay, this particular area should appear and this should disappear. Okay, so hover, you know what hover means, right? When the user keeps the cursor on top, this part should appear. Open file Q02C in your editor. Okay, amend the CSS code to implement the hover effect. So let's do that. Let's open Q02C. Right now, when I open up Q02C, I don't see anything on my screen. Okay, image is not loading. Something is wrong somewhere. Let's check it out. Let's open this up in what do you call it? Sublime text. So let's make this smaller. Let's do a drag and drop. Over here we have it. Okay. So you can see over here. Here we have our CSS styling. We have our CSS styling over here. Here we have our body tag. A div tag has been opened, and the div tag has an ID of menu. Here we have an anchor tag, and it is being connected to homepage.html. Okay, so where does the image appear? Okay, let's go to our CSS code. Over here, we are referring to the menu ID. You can see we are referring to the menu ID, and we are also referring to the anchor tag. Okay, menu ID and anchor tag we are referring, and we are saying display property is equal to block. Okay, which means show. Okay, display block means show it as a complete, show the complete image. Okay, the height has been set to 125 pixel. The width has been set to 170 pixel. So width is set for each section of the image sprite. Okay, so I'm assuming this 170 pixel is exactly up to here. 170 pixel is exactly, see where my cursor is. I'm assuming. Okay, we'll check and see. I'm assuming because according to our question paper, when the image load, when the page loads, only this side should be visible now. So I'm assuming, we'll check and see. Okay, 170 should be up to here, and I think I'm correct because if you look over here, my computer says the image has a width of how much? 343 pixel. Half of 343 is approximately 170. So I'm assuming when the page loads, only this half of the image is visible. Okay, only this half is visible. This half is not visible. Okay, because the width has been set to 170 pixels only. Right, looks good. Add your code to set the URL of the background to the image sprite. So the background property should be connected to the URL of our image. So what would the URL be? We need to understand it. Our file is over here. Our HTML file is over here. The image is right next to it. So you can simply mention the file name dot, and remember it's a PNG file. It's a PNG file. So the URL is going to be house, in double quotes, house.png. Okay, there is some unnecessary space here. Let's take it back. Okay, right. So that is also done. Okay. Then the next thing it says is background position. So the position of the image is starting at 0 pixels. So 0 pixel, 0 pixel from the left, 0 pixel from the top. So it's going to start from this. Can you see where my cursor is, guys? The image is going to be placed right over here. Okay, 0 pixel, 0 pixel now. So right, this is starting point now. So 0 from the left, 0 from the top. So it's going to be right over here. Okay, the image is going to appear right over here. Right. Let's see how that happens. Okay. Then upon hovering it, certain things need to happen in the question paper they have mentioned. For now, let's check if the image loads. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to come and refresh my web page, and you can see over here, yes, the image is loading. Now, when I hover it, I want the second half of my image to be visible. Get my point? I want the second 170 pixel of my image to be visible. So what I am going to do is, upon hovering, what I want to do is, I want my background position to be, so I'm going to copy this, okay? I want the image to move a lot to the left now. Get my point, guys? Right now, my image, this much is only being displayed. So I want to push it to the left. I want to completely push it to the left so that the other half would be displayed. Okay, I hope it makes sense. Huh? Over here, I want to push this image to the left so that this half would then be visible. So how much to the left do I want to push it? So I want to push it right now. You can see it's taking up a space of 170 pixels now. I'm going to push it inside, which means opposite direction. So it will become minus 170 pixel. Okay, so I'm going to copy this same coding over here. And I'm going to say over here, paste it, background position minus 170 here. Sorry, 170, okay? So I'm going to push it to the left, okay? So that the other half would then be visible in that spot. Okay, minus 170 up on the top, which has to be 0. Okay, let's click on save and let's cancel this. Okay, and let's refresh it. Okay, so now, yes, it works perfectly. When I bring my cursor, you don't see it moving to the left, but of course you understand. When I bring on hover, when I bring my mouse on top of it, it's moving 170 pixels to the left. So when it moves 170 pixels to the left, then what appears over there? This particular area appears over there. Okay, so with that, what else do we have to do? Okay, amend the code to implement the hover effect. That is also done. Okay, yeah, so that's it. That's the end of the question. Very simple one over here. Okay, so here again, it's calling the menu div area. It's referring to the anchor tag, and on hover. Okay, colon hover. The following should happen: the background position. Okay, minus 170 pixel, and on the top 0 pixels. Okay, right. That's also done. Then let's move on to the next question. Okay, which is over here. A web page contains shapes that need formatting and positioning. Okay, the rectangle must be black, 500 pixels high, 800 pixels wide. The square must be so much. The circle must be so much. Open Q02D. 1 minute, I forgot to save my previous one as Q02C finished. Let me quickly save it. Q02C finished. File save as Q02C finished. And the .html will be added by Sublime Text itself. I don't need to do it. That's also done. Now I need to open up which one? I need to open up Q02D here. Okay, so over here we have Q02D. So I'm going to say open with Sublime. I'm first going to open it in Google Chrome. When I open it in Google Chrome, I only see a blue color rectangle. Okay, let me drag and drop this over here. Right, there you go. So when I open this over here, you can see, I hope you guys remember what type of a selector are they using here. They're using a class selector over here. You can see dot now. When they use hashtag, it's an ID selector. They're using dot, which means it's a class selector. Okay, let's see what needs to be done. So the first thing that they told me is the rectangle must be black. Okay, so there needs to be a rectangle, and the rectangle is already black, and 500 pixels high, 800 pixels wide. 500 pixels high, 800 pixels wide. That is already done. There is also one more thing which we call Z index. Z index means the positioning of the element. So the higher the index number, let's put it this way. Index 0, the rectangle is index 0. Now, for example, if the square is going to have an index, is an index of 1 or a Z index of 1, the square is going to be in front of the rectangle. You get my point? And then let's say, for example, the circle has a Z index of 2, then the circle will be in front of the square. The higher the index number, what do you say? You will be in front, your object will be in front of the other objects. Is it clear? Okay. So I hope it makes sense over here. Rectangle has a Z index of 0. Now, if I make the square Z index 1, the square will be in front of the rectangle. And then if I make the circle Z index 2, the circle will then be in front of the square. Okay, I hope it makes sense on what this Z index does. Okay, so right now Z index is 0 here. Let's see what needs to be done next. The square must be blue. So let's go into the square. Where is the square? The square is already having a blue this thing, and it must fit inside the rectangle. Okay, it has to be inside the rectangle. Okay, basically it has to be on top of the rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to have a z index, and for now I'll set it to 1. So it can, now this is 0 now, and this is 1, which means this square will appear on top of the rectangle because it has a z index of 1. Okay, right. Then let's do the next one. The circle must be yellow. Circle is over here, so of course I need to copy the same background, and it needs to be set to yellow. So let's change this to yellow. Right, that's also done. And then it must be a circle. Remember, this must be a circle. So I hope you guys remember we have something called border radius. I hope you remember we have something called border radius, and using border radius you can, what do you call, curve the corners of a shape. You can curve the corners of a shape. How much to curve, I don't know. For now, I'm just going to put 50%. For now, I'm going to put 50%. I'm going to say half of the corner should be bent, okay, should be turned, should be curved. And let's see if this becomes a circle. If it is not good enough, we can either increase or decrease it based on what we see on our screen, okay? So background color yellow, border radius is also done. However, width and height we haven't defined yet, okay? So the circle has to fit inside the square, okay? So it has to definitely be smaller than the square. Then if it has to fit inside the square, it has to be smaller than the square. So I'm going to take height and width, and I'm going to give it much smaller values. So maybe height will make it 200, and this also 200, okay? And remember, this needs to be visible in front of the square. So this z index should be 2 then, isn't it? It needs to be visible in front of the square. So I'm going to make the z index 2, okay? That's also done. Then open the file Q02D in HTML. Okay, let's save our changes. Let's go and refresh our web page and see. Nothing is appearing. Let's see what went wrong. Okay, so we have our CSS styling over here. Okay, there's some HTML code also that we need to show over here. Okay, so you can see over here, square is being visible. Class shapes. Okay, so it's referring to this class, and then it's referring to square. Right? Square is over here. Okay, so in this div tag, it's referring to two CSS parts, which is shapes and square. So then what do we need next? Next we need, I'm going to copy and paste this. Next I need the rectangle to appear, isn't it? No, I then need the circle to appear, isn't it? I need circle to appear. So shapes, circle. I hope you understand why we're saying shapes, because over here is shapes, and then this is circle. Okay, so it's inside the class name also. Okay, I hope it makes sense to you. Then we also need one more to appear, which is which one is it? So the square is there, the circle is there, the rectangle needs to appear now. Okay, now I need the rectangle to appear. Okay, so now I have in my HTML file, in my HTML space, in my body space, I have now created space for these objects to appear. So over here, square has been, space for the square has been created, space for the circle has been, space for the. Now let's see how they all look. Okay, now let's see how they all look. Let's come and refresh our web page. Yes, they all look quite fine. Okay, has a question paper given us an output of how it should look? No, they haven't. This is what they have told us, and we have done exactly that is what we have. Okay, so I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, I hope you get this class part especially. Okay, over here there are two classes we are referring to. Okay, shapes and square. Okay, so you can see here we are referring to shapes, and we are also referring to square. Okay, over here we are referring to shapes and circles. So here we have shapes, here we have. Okay. Right, so we are done with question number 3 as well. Sorry, question number 2. We're done with question number 2, and we need to save this as finished. So file save as Q02D finish, and Sublime text will add the .html for me. I'm going to click on save, and then we move on to our next question, which is over here. Okay, so over here we have a big question coming up. Okay. This will take some time, and let's work on it together, part by part, slowly by slowly. Okay, so over here we move on to question number 4. Okay, so let's continue with this. Clean and Gleam needs a web page. A wireframe and style guide have been provided. Figure 7 shows the wireframe. A mockup in PDF format can be found in the assets folder. Okay, so over here you can see the wireframe of your web page. Okay, these are the parts of your web page. Okay, right. And then over here, you can see the requirements have been mentioned. The web design style guide has also been mentioned. Okay, for header, what to do, content, what to do, image area, footer, all that. And also in your assets folder, if you go into question 4 assets folder, you can find that there is a mock-up also that has been given showing you the exact look of what your web page should look like. Okay, so let's create our web page. I'm going to go into Sublime Text. I'm going to take a file, new file, and I'm going to save it as, what am I supposed to save it as? I'm supposed to save it as q04 finish.html and q04 finish.css. So I'll do that right now. q04 finished dot html. Okay, and I'll put it into the q04 folder itself. Okay, and then I'm also going to have another file which is going to be my CSS file. So all my CSS designing is going to be over here, q04 finished dot css. Right, so now in my folder you can see I have my CSS file, I have my HTML file. Right, let me get the HTML opening tags over here. So this is CSS file. This is my HTML file, HTML. Right, there you go. I have got the tags opened over here. Right, the next thing I need to do is, of course, I need to link it to my style sheet. Okay, I hope you remember it. So I'm going to say link. And the address of my style sheet is going to be q04 finish.css. Okay, so now my style sheet has also been linked. Okay, right, now let's go into the body and let's save this. The first thing I know, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this anymore. I don't need this anymore. Don't need. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in Google Chrome so I can see the changes as they happen. Now the first part that I'm going to work on is I'm going to work on the header area. Okay, I'm going to work on this header area. So I'm going to use the header tag to design it, and you can see it's 1000 pixels wide. So let's come into the body, and I'm going to say header. I'm going to say header open, header closed, and I'm going to give well, not necessarily an ID. I can refer to the tag itself. And over here, I'm going to have the text. What's the text? Clean and gleam, and also the logo needs to be there, no? Okay, so let's get the logo, then let's get clean and gleam. Okay, so I'm going to go into image. Okay, and the logo that we use is, guys, if you look carefully, the logo, what is the logo that we use? You can see over here in the header area, insert the logo. The image can be found in the assets folder. So in the assets folder, you can find the logo, and it's called what? It's called logo. Okay. So now, since my HTML file is outside the assets folder, I have to give the address of my image. So I will have to mention assets / logo dot. And what's this file type? Let's go into properties and see the file type. It's a JPG image. Okay. So in this thing, I'm going to say assets / logo.jpg. Okay, so I have got my logo, and then next to my logo, I need to have the text. What's the text I need to have? Where is my mockup? Mockup is over here. I need to have the text clean and gleam. So I'm going to type that also, clean and gleam. Okay, right. Now, before I go and see how it looks, I have created my header. Now let me go into my CSS file and start designing the header. So I'm referring to the header tag, and so far we do know that the background color is black. So I'm going to say background color, and according to the question paper, they have told me the exact black color to give 000000. So I'm going to set it to 000000. The next thing that I do know is it has a width of 1000 pixels. You can see that. So I'm going to set the width to 1000 pixels. Width is 1000 pixel. That is also done. Now I need to work on the logo and the text. Okay, so for now, let's see how it looks. Let's see how it looks for now. I'm going to save this also. I'm going to come and refresh my web page, and you can see it looks a complete mess. Okay, slowly by slowly we will correct it. Okay, when I come to my HTML file, it says over here, the first thing is, I have ignored this. I'll come back to this shortly. The first thing is background color is done. So let me put a note over here. This is done. Okay. Text is also done. Okay, let me put a note over here. Text is also done. Okay, the font size should be 40. So let me go and change that. I'll go to the header tab. The text is inside the header now. You can see clean and gleam is inside header. I'm going to set its font size. Okay, I'm going to say font size and I'm going to make it 40 pixels. Okay, let's save it. So let's see how it looks now. You can see for some reason the text is not visible. Okay, we'll see why. Okay, one more thing that needs to be done is the font color should be set to white. So let's do that. I'm putting done now itself, but I'll set it to white now. I'll say color should be equal to white, which is double F, double F, double F. Now let's see how it looks. Now when I refresh, it's appearing over here. Okay, that looks all right. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to embolden the text. Okay, so I'm going to say embolden means I need to make it bold. So I can do that also in the header tag. I can say font weight. I want it to be bold, not bolder. Bold is enough. That is also done. Let's say done over here. The logo has also been inserted. However, the logo should have a width of 100 pixels. So I'm putting done, but let me go and do it. The logo needs to have a width of 100 pixels. So let me come over here and let's say width is equal to 100 pixels. Or let me put it in the CSS file itself. So what I'll do is I'll give an ID for this image. I'll give an ID and I'll say logo. I'll say logo. Okay. Now I'm going to refer to my logo hashtag. I'm referring to the ID now. So I have to put a hashtag logo. And for now, the width is going to be equal to 100 pixels. 100 pixels. Okay, let's see how it works out now. I didn't save the HTML page. Control S. Okay, it looks better. However, there are a couple more things that we need to remember. If you look very carefully, you can see over here, this has rounded corners. Is it clear? Also, there is some padding over here. So let's put some padding for the header. Padding means space between the border and the content inside. So let me put a padding of about 5 pixels, maybe 5 pixel padding. Okay, so there'll be a small gap between the border and the content. So now when you refresh, can you see there's a small gap? Okay, that's enough. And this needs to have rounded edges. So I'm going to put a border, and then I'm going to, without putting a border, you can do it. You can say border dash radius, and I don't know. Let's say 10%, okay, 10% curved. Let's see how much it works. That's good enough. Okay, you can see it has now got rounded. Corners have got rounded. That's good enough. Okay. And the next thing that's missing is you can see over here, the text needs to be like in the middle of your logo. So which means I need to move my text. This clean and gleam, I need to move it. However, when it's inside the header, I cannot move it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a separate text box for clean and gleam so that I can move it. Is it clear? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put clean and gleam inside the div box. Okay. Open div. Okay. And close div over here. And I'm going to give it an ID of, ID will be equal to heading. I'll just say heading. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is after the logo, I'm going to refer to the heading. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put font size, color, font weight, all that comes inside this now, not inside the header anymore. It comes inside this. Control V. Okay. And one more thing that I need to do is you need to remember, guys, heading needs to be inside header now. So what I'm going to do is for the header, I'm going to have a positioning. I'm going to have a positioning called relative. Okay, I'm going to have a positioning called relative because let me tell you why. Why am I making the header have a position of relative? Because when the header has a positioning of relative, then this particular div box, this particular div text box can be moved using a positioning called absolute. You get my point? When this has a positioning called relative, you can then create another text box inside it and you can move it freely as long as this text box has a positioning called absolute. When you have a positioning of absolute, you can move it based on the position of the header. Okay, let me show you how it works. So here I'm going to have a position called absolute. Okay, now let me show you the output. Let's see how the output looks right now. Now you can see my box has disappeared. Okay, my what do you call it? My clean and gleam text box has disappeared. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to first say top 0 pixels. I want it to be right at the top. Okay, top is 0 pixel. Okay, let's save this. Let's come and refresh it. Now you can see my text box has appeared over here. I hope you understand how this positioning works. Because this header area has a positioning called relative and this text box has a positioning called absolute, I can now move this based on the positioning of this header. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, this is only possible because this black color header has a positioning of relative and this has a positioning of absolute. Okay, absolute means move it based on wherever the relative text box is, the relative area is. Okay, so it's right at the top. Now I want to take it from the, I want to take it to the left. Okay, so I want to keep a gap on the left. How much I don't know. Let me try different values and see. Okay, so left I want it to have, I don't know, the image is 100 pixels. So how about I make it 120 pixels? It has to be away from the image now. Let's try and see how it looks now. That looks good. Now I need to come a little more down. So instead of top 0 pixel, let's make top 10 pixel. Okay, let's see if this is too much. Yeah, it's not enough, no? So let's make it 30 pixel. And now let's see how it looks. 30 pixel looks good enough. Okay, it has now come properly over here. So remember, this text box is being moved based on the positioning of this black color text box. Okay, so this one has a position called absolute. Absolute means move it based on the position of the text box that it is inside. Okay, I hope you understand this. Okay, this particular clean and clean is inside a text box which is inside the header, and the header has a positioning called relative. Okay, makes sense. That's a position of relative. So this heading will move based on the position of this. Okay, right. Now that's also done. Now let's go back to our question paper and let's mark what we have done. Okay, so this is also done. Now over here, guys, we have to use HTML5. So in HTML5 elements, so far what have we used? We have only used the header so far. Okay, we have other sections. We have navigation, footer, section, article, content. All those sections are there. We have to try and use as many of them as possible. Arial font we haven't done. The entire web page should have an Arial font. So what I'll do is I'll simply come over here. I'll open the body tag and I'll say the body tag should have a font. Should have a font family of Arial. So the entire web page, the entire body is going to have Arial font. So that's also done. External style sheet is also done. We linked it now, you remember. So padding, we are still doing. Padding margins, we are still doing. Okay. All these are done. Okay. This entire area is done now. You can just put done over here. Right. Now we move on to the content area. So now I'm going to open a tag called content. Okay. Remember, we're using HTML5. So we have to use these sections. I'm going to use content. Okay. Right. Now, guys, you can see inside the content, there are so many things that need to appear inside the content area. So for content, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the content a positioning of relative, because all the objects that are going to appear inside the content are going to move based on where the content is. Which is why for content, I'm going to give a positioning called relative. Okay, so everything else can have a positioning of absolute, and I can move them based on where the content is. Okay, based on this point, I can move each and every one of them. So it's very important that you come over here and you say content. You open the content tag. Let's open the content tag, and let's say this content is having a positioning of relative. Okay, right. Okay, positioning is relative. Okay, right. Now what do we know about the content area? Let's do it one by one. The background color of the content area should have this F5 DC. Let's do that. Okay, so here I'm going to come here and say background color F5 DC. That's also done. Next, what do we need? Now we need to set the text area. Okay, now we also need to understand that this is also going to have a width of 1000 pixels, right? If this is 1000 pixels, this content area is also going to have a width of 1000 pixels, isn't it? So let me come and say width is 1000 pixels. Let's set that also. Okay. Now I'm going to have my first text area, which is going to be which is going to have the text about us. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. So now what I'm going to do is inside my content area, I'm going to open a new div box, a text box, div open, and inside this div I'm going to put the text about us. Okay, now this div area I'm going to give it an id called about us. Okay, let's give it an id called about us. Okay, now if you look over here, this about us, what's the width of it? Now this is done. The width has to be 380 pixels. Okay, so I'm going to set it to 380 pixels right now. Okay, over here, this text area, this particular area needs to have a width of 380 pixels. So let me do that right now over here. So I'm going to go into my CSS file and I'm going to refer to about us. Okay, and be careful over here. I have used capital U, which means you need to do the same thing over here. Capital U, about us. And remember the width needs to be 380 pixels. Okay, that's also done. Next, what needs to happen? About us heading I have inserted. The background color should be C70039. So let me change this. Background color should be C7 hashtag C7, sorry, hashtag C70039. That's also done. Okay. Heading the size should be 20 pixels. So let me do that. Font size 20 pixel. That's also done. And I need to, no, this is all for the others. Right, let's see how the output looks. I'm going to save this. And let's come and refresh our web page. So far, it looks all right. However, the text area background is not appearing for some reason. Let's go and check that out, why that is not appearing. Okay, so over here, I'm going to come here. Let me just check if everything is okay here. I have set content tag I have referred to. Okay, oh, you know what I'm going to do? What I'm going to do is, let me put the content tag inside a div tag with the ID content. I guess that would be much better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to open the div tag here. I'm going to open a div tag. Okay, and I'm going to close this div tag just before the content. Is it clear? Okay, and this div tag, I'm going to give it an ID called content. Okay, right. So basically, this content is having a text box. Okay, and over here, I'm going to refer to that text box. I'm going to put a hashtag content because I'm referring to its ID. Okay, so I have now created a text box called content. That text box is going to have a position of relative. It's going to have the following background color. It's going to have a width of 1000 pixels. Right, let's save it. Let's come and refresh it. Okay, right, now it seems to be working. Why is it not reaching up to here? Because you do remember we put a padding of 5 pixels for this. That padding, we did not apply it here. We need to apply it here as well. Okay, so let's go and apply that padding also. So for the content also, we need a padding of 5 pixels. Okay, I hope you remember here, we put a padding of 5 pixels. That is why the header is slightly bigger than the content area. Okay, so let's come and refresh this now. Now they are perfectly fitting over here. Now, about us, do remember, about us needs to be, we have made it 380 pixels. This is done. Okay, this we haven't done yet. Background color, all of them we haven't done yet. Font size, all of them we haven't done yet. Did we make it 20 pixels? Font size is 20 pixels. That is also done, only for one so far. Okay. Okay. According to our mockup, guys, if you look at our mockup, you can see that they are all center aligned. You can see these guys are center aligned. So shall I also do that? About us, text align. I'm going to select and say center. Okay, so now when I come and refresh my web page, that's also center aligned. Okay, super. Then the next part, let's move on. I need to insert this text below. Below about us, I need the text to appear. So what I'm going to do over here is, what I'm going to do below about us, I'm going to have another div box. Okay, I'm going to have another div box, div, or another text box, and I'm going to have an ID here called about us text, about us text. Okay, and for this div box, I'm going to copy and paste the text. Okay, so the about us text over here, you can see we have the about us text, right? The about us text, right? The about us text can be received from the about us notepad file. Okay, if you go here into your assets folder, you have an about us notepad file. You can open it. You can copy all this text. Control A, Control C. Let's come to Sublime text. Let's paste it over here, and let's take this side. Okay. Okay. So we have now got our text inside it. And are there any properties that we need to keep in mind? Justify. We need to justify it. Okay. So I'm going to go into our the about us text. I'm going to refer to that div box, about us text. Get your spellings right. Capital symbols matter. And I'm going to say text align should be justified. Okay. Now let's come and refresh our web. I think I didn't save both. Let's save this and let's save this also. Now let's come and refresh. Okay, the text has appeared fine. However, I need to restrict the width to 380 pixels. Remember, right? I need to restrict the width to 380 pixels. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. About us text is going to have a width of 380 pixels. Now let's come and refresh our web page. Perfect. It's appearing right below about us. Right. What do we need to do next then? Okay, so this has been done. Next, what do we need to do? If you look at our mockup, the next part we have is customer reviews. Okay, so I'm going to create another div box for customer reviews. Okay, so let's go over here, and right below this, so I'm going to close this. We come to an end over here. Okay, now I'm going to open another div box. So I can simply copy and paste this, right? Control C, Control V. Let's arrange it. Keep a line, keep a space of line. It becomes easy for us to read. This is going to be customer reviews. Okay, and what is the text going to be? The text is going to be customer reviews. Okay, now save this. In my CSS file, I'm going to refer to customer reviews. Okay, reviews or review, what did I spell it here? Customer reviews. I'm going to copy the same properties from about us text. Sorry, from about us, copy the same properties. Control C, Control V. Now do remember, this entire space was 380. Now customer reviews is only going to take half of it, which means this needs to be set to 190 pixels now. Okay, customer reviews, this area needs to have a width of 190. So I'm going to change the width to 190 now. Okay, 190 pixel. Well, let's make it 170 because there needs to be a small gap between the two, right? So let's make it 170 pixel. Okay, or 180 pixel. Let's keep it 170. Okay, 170 pixel gap we are going to keep. Background color, same maroon color we need. The font is going to be same. It's going to be text align center. Right. Let's see how it works out now. Let's refresh it. It appears quite fine. You can see over here, customer reviews has appeared quite fine. Okay. Now below customer reviews in my notepad file, I have all the customer reviews. So I'm going to copy them and I have to paste them. But before I paste them, I'm going to create another text box for the customer reviews. So I can simply copy and paste the about us text. We can copy that and we can take it over here. But this is not going to be about us. It's going to be customer reviews text. And in my notepad file, I have the text, which I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste over here. Okay, let's press tab and align them all properly. I'm aligning them for reading purposes. Okay, it doesn't make a difference on the web page. And remember, each of these need to appear in separate lines. So I'm going to use the BR tag. BR. Okay, let's copy and paste this. Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V here. Okay. Now, do remember, we have to do the styling for this. So once again, why don't you simply go and copy the about us text? Let me put the quoting over here. This is going to be customer reviews text. And the properties we need, align we need. But remember, the width is going to be only half. Okay, if you look at your mockup, I hope you do remember, only half the space you have, which means 170 again. So it has to be justified and it needs to be 170 pixels only. So let's save it. Let's come and refresh our web page. It appears okay. However, the spacing between the lines is not good enough, isn't it? Let's increase the spacing. Let's put 2 BR tags. Okay, let's put 2 BR tags. I'm going to put one more BR. Okay, looks like the spacing is not enough. Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. Okay, now I think the spacing should be better. Yes, the spacing is a lot better. There was one more requirement, if you remember. Over here, they said italicize the customer reviews. Okay, so I'm going to make it italics in the page style over here. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say font style, which is over here, font style, and I'm going to say italic. Now save it and refresh it. You can see this has become italics. Okay, right. Then what do we have next, guys? What do we have next in our web page? The next part that we need is we need services. Now this is the complicated one because now positioning really needs to work now. Okay, now positioning needs to work. Let's get started. Let's do it first. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to again copy this div tag and I'm going to paste it here. So over here, what do we have? Over here, the ID is going to be services, and the text that I'm going to display is also going to be services. Okay, and I'm going to come to my, I'm going to save this. I'm going to come to my CSS file. I'm going to refer to services. Okay, and I'm going to have the same properties as about us. Okay, I can have the same properties as customer reviews, isn't it? Same properties as customer reviews. Only one small difference we need to make. Width is only half, background color is okay, font size is okay, text align is okay. Now do remember, I need to move this particular services, I need to move it. Now normally it's going to appear over here now. So I'm going now, since this entire text box here is having a position of relative, I'm going to move this services which is going to appear here. I'm going to move it over here. Is it clear? I'm going to give it a positioning of absolute. Absolute means it will move based on this yellow color text box. This content text box is going to move. Okay. So now look here very carefully. I'm going to give it a positioning of position. I'm going to give it a position of absolute. Now when the moment I give it a position of absolute, I can use top, left, right. I can use it. Okay. So now from the top point is here because it's inside this yellow color text box. Man, this yellow color text box has a positioning of relative. So relative to this particular point, can you see where my cursor is? Okay, relative to this particular point, I'm using a position called absolute to move it around. So from here, I want it to jump to the right-hand side. How much the right-hand side? It is taking a space of 170 pixels now. So at least 170 pixels from the left, I want the services box to be here. Okay, so we'll try. From the left, at least 170 pixel gap should be there. We'll see how this looks. Okay, now let's refresh. It has appeared over here. It has appeared over here. Okay, now I need to take it to the top. So for now, I'll say top 0. So it's going to move right to the top. It's going to move. Okay, and then from there, I'll move it down. Top 0 pixel. So it's going to move right to the top now. Can you see? It has now moved right to the top. Now I'm going to push it down. So from the top, I want a space of about 300 pixels. Let's see how this looks. 300 pixels seems to be too much. Let's make it 250 pixels. 150 pixels. Let's see how this looks. 250 seems too much. Let's make it 280 pixel. 280 is too much. Let's make it 275. 275 is also too much. Let's make it 270. 268, 266. Let's make it 267. Okay, now it should be perfect. Okay, so 267 is perfect. However, it's overlapping, which means 170 pixels is not enough. Let's make it 190 pixels. Okay, from the left, I want a gap of 190 pixels. Okay, perfect. Now we have more than enough of a gap. Okay, now below this, I want the text to appear. So this text also is going to have a positioning of absolute, and then I'm going to move it to the right, and then I'm going to move it down. Okay, so let's do that now. Let's create another text box over here. Let's copy this and let's paste it over here. This text box is going to be called what? Not customer reviews. It's going to be called services. Services text. And where do I get the text from? I get the text from over here. Control A, Control C. Come here, Control V. And let's align this so it becomes easy to read. Okay, now services text has been included. There are a couple of things you need to keep in mind. You can see the services text is a bulleted list. Okay, so I need to open an ordered list over here. Let me do that. OL open and OL closed, which means ordered list. Okay, right. OL open, OL closed. And remember, each one is LI. LI means list item. So Control C, Control V, 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 Control V. Okay, and let me close the list item also, because each one needs to have their own bullet point now. Okay. Control V, Control V, Control V, Control. Also, you can see each of them are having a spacing, so I need to keep a BR tag after each and every one of them. Space, okay, line space. So BR, 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 BR. That's good. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is, now let me just show you how the output looks. Okay, you can see this is how the output looks. Now I need to start positioning that. Okay, I had a mistake. Not ordered list, it needs to be unordered list. UL. Okay, I need to change this to UL, not OL, UL. Okay, now when I come and refresh my web page, you can see it has appeared as bullet points. Now I need to start moving it. So now let me go and start, what do you call it? Let's refer to that ID, services text. Let's open it up. Okay, we need these anyway. Okay, we need these anyway. They don't have to be italic. Okay, Control C, Control V. Okay, with this 175, text align is justified. Now the positioning, the position is going to be absolute because I want to move it based on the content box, which is relative. Now from the left, how much of a gap do I want to keep? I need to keep the same gap as 190 pixels. Then from top, how much of a gap do I want to keep? I don't know. I'm going to try different values and see. Okay, so for now, I'll just make it 297 pixels and we'll see how it looks like. Okay, now let's refresh our web page. This is what it looks like. Okay, I can take it some more up. So instead of 297, let's make it 290 pixels and let's refresh it. That looks okay, but still not good enough. Okay, let's make it 280 pixels. Okay, 280 seems to be okay. However, we do have a few problems over here. This shouldn't be justified. You can see the spaces that are being created. So they told us justify only about us and customer review should be justified. No? So let's remove the justify from over here. Justify we don't need here. Let's save it and let's come and refresh this. Okay, that looks okay. And I think having two spaces is too much. It's going out of our content box. So let's reduce the spacing. Okay, so instead of having, let's remove the spacing, no? Because when we apply the spacing, we're running out of space. Now let's refresh it. Okay, now we do have space. It's not going outside. Okay, so that looks all right. Okay, right. About us is done. Customer reviews is done. Services is done. Okay, now the next part that's remaining to be done is let's start marking. This was done. We inserted the headings, we inserted the backgrounds for each of them. The font size we sent to 20. We inserted the text. We justified these text. We italicized that. Bulleted list also we have. That's also done. Images. Now we're talking about these images over here. So here we have, now let's first get this done. Okay, let's get this done. It needs to have a width of 580 pixels. So let's do that now. We need to have one more over here. So let's copy and paste this. Control C. images. The ID is going to be images. And over here, let me come over here and let's copy and paste this, which is over here. Where is it? Let's copy this entire thing over here. Control C, Control V. So here we are referring to images. Position is absolute because I want to move it. How much do I want to move it? Not 190 pixels. I hope you do remember this entire area was taking up a space of 380 pixels. You remember. Okay, in our question, we set it over here. They told us, right, it should be 380 pixels. So it needs to be at least about 390 pixels from the left. At least 390 pixels from the left. From the top, it doesn't matter. It can be 0. Okay, we want it to be right at the top. From the top, 0 pixels. How big is this going to be? Remember that the width needs to be how much? Width needs to be 580 pixels. The width needs to be 580 pixels. Okay, 580 pixels. Okay, so that is also done. Background color is okay, font size okay. Right, let's save it and let's come and refresh it over here. I think we didn't save our HTML page. Let's save our HTML page. Let's come and refresh it now. Okay, services has appeared over here. I think top 0 is not a good idea. Let's increase the top a little bit more. Let's make it, I don't know, maybe 10 pixel. Let's see how good is this. 10 is a little too much. Let's make it 8 pixel. Let's make it 6 pixel. Let's make it 5. Okay, 5 seems to be ideal. Okay. So when I look at my mockup, it looks all right. No images. Okay, sorry, we need to say images, not there. So let's change this text to images. Images, and let's refresh this. Okay, that looks quite fine as well. Okay, now below images, I need to insert my first image. So I'm going to open another div box and let's take it up. Div, and I'm going to call this ID is equal to, what's the image we need to insert now? I'm going to call it window. Okay, I'm going to call it window. Okay, and inside this, I'm going to open my image tag. Image src is equal to assets / window.jpg. Okay, so I'm referring to the assets folder. My HTML file is here, assets folder, and then take the window. Where is window? Window is over here, .jpg. Okay, now I'm going to start positioning this image. Okay, so the image is called window now. I'm going to refer to its ID, window. Position should be absolute. Okay, so from the left, it needs to keep space of 390 pixel. From the top, I don't know, it needs to keep a space of 10 pixels. Okay, there is no background color. However, there is a width. And how much should the width be? Have they told us the width of the image? So we'll keep it at 580 pixels. No, we'll keep it at 580 pixels. 580. And also, if you look very carefully, you can see they say set a border around each image. So I'm going to say border and I'm going to say 1 pixel. And also the borders have to be rounded. So which means we have to use border radius. So border radius, I don't know, I'm going to make it 10%. Okay, 10% curved. Okay. Now let's see how our web page looks. Okay, it looks, but the borders haven't been curved. Say 10 pixel. I think the border, I need to make it 1px solid black. Solid black. Now when I refresh it, okay. No, let's do something like this. Let's remove the border and let's only have a border radius. Okay, let's remove the border, only have a border radius. For some reason, border radius, let's make it 10%. One minute, let's take my image somewhere down, 20 pixel down. Now let's refresh it. Okay, not enough. 40 pixel down, let's take it. Okay, You can see the image is way too big. Okay, so with 580 pixels is not working. It seems to be way too big. Okay, so let's make it 5. When I make it 580 pixels, it's going outside my image. Okay, so let's try and make it 500 pixels and see. Something is not right. Oh, sorry, I'm referring to the wrong thing. I need to refer to the image, right? I need to refer to the image. Okay, so 580 pixels is okay. I'm referring to the wrong thing. I need to refer to my image. So I need to give an ID for my image. So ID equal, sorry, my bad. ID equal, I was earlier referring to this div tag. I need to refer to the image. So I'm going to say window image, window image. Okay, now let's put the properties over here. So border radius, all that we remove over here. Right. Now we use window image. Right. Now here we have, what did I say? Width should be equal to 580 pixel. Okay. Border radius should be equal to, I don't know, 10%. Okay. Now let's refresh it. Save this. Save this. Okay. Now let's refresh it. Okay. Now it looks all right. I think, yeah, now it looks all right. 10% seems to be too much. Okay. So what we'll do is they also ask for a border 1px solid black. And let's make it, I don't know, 5%. Now let's refresh and see how it looks. This looks better. This looks better. Okay. Somewhat similar to what they have been asking for. Okay, so we've got it over here. Now below window, we need to have 3 more images. One is ironing, vacuum, and staff. Let's do that. Let's create separate text boxes for each of them. Okay. So window, below window, I'm going to create another one that says, let me insert the image first. So below this, I'm going to have another div box. Okay, div, and the ID is going to be equal to ironing. Okay, now I'm going to have an image ironing, sorry, assets slash ironing.jpg, and the ID of the image is going to be equal to ironing image. Okay, now I need to start positioning the ironing image. Okay, so let me copy and paste both of these. This is going to be ironing. Position is this, left is 390. I think I have to double it now, maybe, I don't know, 100 pixels from the top. Width is not 580 pixels. I need to share this width of 580 pixels with 3 images. So I think about 120, 150, it will become 450. If I give 180, it will become 180 times 3. If I take 180 into 3, can it cover 580? It's coming to 540. So if you keep 20, so maybe 190 times 3, 570. Let's make it 185. So then we can have small gaps in between. Okay, we can have small gaps in between. Okay, so I'm gonna keep the width to 185 pixels. Okay, 185 pixels. Okay, and the ironing image, the width is not going to be 180 pixel. The width is going to be 185 pixel. Okay, 185 pixels. Border radius. Okay, now I need to position it. Let's see how it looks. So when I save it, it's appearing over here. Why is it appearing over here? It needs to appear over here. Let's see how our coding was. So ironing, I have told, no, the problem here is ironing. Have I got the spelling mistake here? Ironing. Okay, right, now it should be all right. So it's not enough. I need to take it some more down. So I need to maybe 250 pixels, maybe 250 pixels gap from the top. Not enough. Let's make it 350. That's too much. Let's make it 300. 300 seems to be ideal. We have our first image. Now I'm going to insert my second image. Okay. So after ironing, what do we have next? After ironing, we have vacuum. Okay. So I'm going to insert my next image. Let's copy and paste this. Control C. I'm going to call this vacuum. Assets / vacuum. And ID is going to be vacuum image. Okay. And I'm going to use the same properties again. Okay, so Control C, Control V. I'm going to call this vacuum. Absolute left, it will be more than 390. Okay, so maybe we have to make this 690 now from the left. Okay, top, it will be same 300 pixels. Width will be 185, 185. Okay, let's see how it looks now. Something didn't go right here. I forgot to change this to vacuum image. Okay, so there seems to be too much of a gap here. Let's see from the left. I made it 690. 690 seems to be too much. Let's make it 490. 490 will be too little. Let's make it 590. 590 seems to be perfect. Then we have our final next image, which is staff. So again, we can do a copy and paste here. Okay, so Control C, Control V, ID is equal to staff. Assets folder, staff. Image ID is also going to be called staff image. And over here, I'm going to save this. I'm going to again copy these two. And I'm going to paste it. Absolute left, not 590, maybe 790 now. Okay, top 300, same width. And here we don't call it vacuum, we call it staff. Here we call it staff image. Width is 185, same properties again. Let's come and refresh our web page and see how it looks. It looks perfect. It has appeared over there. Now below this, I need one more, which is the mirror image. Okay. So let's do that. The mirror image is very similar to the window image. So you can just copy and paste the same thing, just change the name of the file and the position. So let's do that. Let's come over here. Where do we have window? We have window over here. Control C, come over here. Control V, here it will be mirror. Here it will be mirror image. Assets / mirror. That's also done. Control S. Now where is mirror over here? Sorry, where is window? We'll copy the same properties as window. We'll copy and we'll just change the ID names. So from window, this becomes mirror. From window image, this becomes mirror image. The position will be absolute left. It will be 390. However, top will have to severely increase because this image is going right to the bottom. How much, I don't know. I'll just put 400 pixels for now. And we'll see, because the earlier one was 300. We'll just make this 400 and see how it looks. Okay. The width is going to be the same. Okay. Let's see how it looks. I think we need to increase it some more, maybe 580 to 680 maybe. Sorry, not 680. From top, instead of 400, let's make it 500 pixels from the top. That seems too much. Let's make it 450. 450 from the top. That also seems to be too much. 420. Let's see how that looks. 420 looks to be all right. Yeah, 420 seems to be okay. Maybe 420. Yeah, 420 is good enough. Okay, so with that, we have completed this complete area. This area is done. Now, the last part that's remaining is this footer. Okay. However, before we go to the footer, let's come and ensure we have done all this. This was done. Insert image, done. Background color, done. Images as shown, done. Border, done. Rounded corners, done. Now we are in the footer. So if you look over here, the footer also has the same width. Okay, it's very similar to the header. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create so now I'm done with content. Content is done. I'm going to come out of it. I'm going to open my footer tab. Okay, and over here I'm going to type the text email us. Okay, and I'm going to copy the same properties as header. Okay, so the same properties, Control C, and I'm going to come right to the bottom. And over here, we're going to have not header, it's going to be footer. So position, relative, background color, it's going to be black color. Width is 1000 pixels, padding is 5 pixels. Let's see how it looks on our web page. I didn't save my HTML page. Control S. Come and refresh it. Right, it has appeared over here. The text is not visible. The text is not visible because over here text is also black. So I'm going to just say font color, or just say color. Color should be white. So hashtag #F. Control S, come and refresh. You can see it has appeared over here. It needs to be in the center, right? So here I can say text line center, save, refresh. That's in the center. Now I need to make this an email link. Okay. So if you come over here, I'm going to open the anchor tag. Okay, open anchor tag. href is equal to. Remember, this is an email link we are typing. So we have to say mail to colon, and then type the email address to make this a email hyperlink. So what's the email address, guys? The email address over here is info@cleanandgleam.imp. So we can say over here info@cleanandgleam.imp. Okay, do not forget to put the closing angle bracket. Then do not forget to close the anchor tag. Okay, so now you have made this a email hyperlink. You can see over here it says email us. So this is also done. We change the background color to black. Email us is also there. Email link is also there. Font size has to be 14 pixels. We didn't do that. Let's do that in the CSS file. Font size 14 pixel. That's also done. Okay, we don't need this. Control S. So this is also done. Set the font color of the email link to white, including when the user hovers over it. So it should become white even when the user hovers over it. Okay. So let's come over here and let's say a hover and anchor tag hover, and the color is going to become hashtag #F. So save it, come and refresh it. So when I keep the cursor over it, it becomes white color. Okay, that's also done. So this is also done. Then develop. So I think basically we have done everything. Is there anything that we have not done? Done. All these are done. All are done. So paddings we did use matte paddings. Okay, that is also done. If you look over here, do you think we have missed anything? I don't think we have missed anything. If I have to, do let me know. Okay, I think I have inserted all of this. And with that, we come to the end of this 20-mark question. Okay, so please do practice it because every past paper has a massive question like this. Okay, so please do practice it and make full use of this video. Okay, I hope you have benefited from it. Okay, until we meet again, do take care. Okay, thank you.